Recently, at Momentum, our elder friends Art Cunningham and Roy Bearchief, they encouraged us to tell our own origin story related to Momentum's Indigenous work. This video was created to put our origin story on record, so those who come after us will understand how their journey began and evolved within Mohkinstsis. As we remember where we began, the way forward can also become more clear.
We just needed to get very deliberate and very strategic about building partnerships, learning as an organization, and actually moving forward to offer programs that really resonated with Indigenous people to help them move out of poverty.
So at Momentum, we have a long history of working with Indigenous participants. People like Leslie Bull, who was a graduate in our business training program, or Jacqueline Northpagan, who graduated from one of our savings programs. But we really recognized a number of years ago that we needed to shift from working with participants in our programs to building more right relations with people so that we could have a more active role in reconciliation.
Back in the Calgary Urban Aboriginal Initiative existed, working with Momentum on some community engagement pieces. Being approached by Momentum outside of that, Monique and I were asked to help support a larger strategy development for Momentum.
The first steps in the process was to draft an Indigenous engagement strategy and to look at what is the role that we can play in reconciliation, in economic reconciliation. So we worked with knowledge keepers, Christy Morgan, Monique Fry, led the way in writing that Indigenous engagement strategy.
Getting a deeper understanding from Momentum staff on what it was Momentum is and what they'd like to be. And so that included a lot of one-to-one conversations with folks, one-to-ones with the leadership within Momentum at the time, to really understand what it is that they all think Momentum is supposed to be doing versus what they actually are doing, to what they want it to be. And so there's a lot of diverse perspectives that came in at that point, and so it was getting that clarity and then bringing people back to the table to say, here's what we've heard around this piece in particular.
Our first step was to learn more about Indigenous history, more about the challenges that Indigenous people are still facing today, and it just grew from there. So the Indigenous Engagement Working Group is still, an active group here at Momentum, filled with people that are really committed to social justice, economic justice, and helping us, build our relationships, our trust with Indigenous organizations.
To me, the importance of that is that connection between Indigenous culture, Indigenous way of doing things, and Momentum. They're beginning to work within Indigenous way of doing things, Indigenous ways of knowing. So for me, at that time, suggesting maybe we should do a ceremony around it. Put the strategy into a bundle and have ceremonialist Clarence Wolflake, Mexican, that's his Blackfoot name, means red crane. It's giving the strategy a blessing. Because with ceremonies, it's all about authority. Authority to proceed, authority to do something, authority to bless something. So for me, Clarence Wolflake as the ceremonialist, giving Momentum authority to proceed with an Indigenous engagement strategy. And what my friend Clarence said at one point, treat your bundle like a baby, because that's how bundles are treated.
They needed a strategy to move themselves forward. Once they got the strategy, they didn't know how to move it forward. So they needed an Indigenous individual to lead that for them and take them down the right way. So I happened to sneak in here at a good time and was able to really, it was kind of really at the beginning of the work with the organization and the staff of the organization is when I really started it. And it grew, and it's at a pretty good place now.